And welcome back to part 2 of our discussion about things that the church may call evil or demonic, and is not necessarily those things, as well as some things that they should be paying attention to. For part 1 of the discussion, go back to the last episode, episode 13, because we're just kind of picking up where we left off, talking about Pokemon and some games that were just inherently evil.
Yeah, I think it's just important to just do your due diligence, figure it out. Obviously, if you're unsure and you feel like maybe, then don't. Just it's not worth it, right?
Not
It's not
worth
worth the potential foothold to give the enemy. And sometimes like with Pokemon, maybe it's not good for somebody else. Maybe they know themselves enough that they're like, okay, well, yeah, it's just going to become an idol for me.
Or a gambling problem.
Right. It's just like, it's just kind of like drinking. Like if you know somebody with you has a drinking problem, you're not going to be like, hey, you want to have a drink? And like potentially they're gonna be like, no, please, like.
Or even if you don't know, like, you're not going to sit there and have a drink around them.
Right.
So if it's causing them to stumble, so like obviously with Pokemon, it has, someone has an addictive personality and they got to catch them all, and they, or like have, something you don't, and they tend to stumble with that because they become hyper-focused on something, that's going to deter them. You're not going to be like, hey, let's do some Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Going back, I think one of the original, and by the way, this is also why it's important who you surround yourself with, because you can have those friends check your blind spots.
Oh, for sure. Like that will be like, hey,
check on you.
I feel like maybe you've been doing this too much. Like I haven't seen you at church.
Or you can consult them like, hey, like, I'm not too sure about this. What do you think?
Right. Yeah. It's always good to have fellowship, because you're not going to be spot on and everything. And sometimes it's good to have those friends that, not necessarily call you out, but like in honesty and in love, to be like, hey, are you doing this too much, or are you spending enough time, with the Lord, or is everything okay? I think it's so important, especially when it comes to things like this.
Yep, absolutely. What's interesting is, like, I didn't realize how much we were going to discuss that aspect of this before recording, but it became so important, and the way it's like ingrained into everything we're discussing. It's just kind of interesting how it was unexpected but almost obvious. But like I was saying, going back even further than Pokemon, perhaps one of the original taboos of the world, I guess of gaming, Dungeons and Dragons. And I think that's another thing that just initially starts at the name, right? Oh, dragons are the devil, right? Serpents.
So just to kind of give a history behind kind of like why people got the way they were, or the uproar with Dungeons and Dragons, is Dungeons and Dragons came out in 1974. So 1974 is when it kind of premiered. And, the 60s and 70s, you had the whole Jesus revival, where you had this big revival coming across the nation, and you had a lot of, young kids turning to Christ, and a lot of the church didn't know what to do with that. Instead of trying to embrace that and join in, they kind of pushed them away and kind of being more traditional in sense. And what ends up happening is, if you're hungry, if you have a spiritual hunger, a lot of times what was also big during that time was a rise in, paganism and witchcraft and the occult. And it happened to be right around this time when this game came out. And so the game got really popular and big in the 80s. You also saw it like in the show Stranger Things kind of revolves around Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And there's even, an aspect, I think, within season 4 talking about bringing all this up with the age of what they called the satanic panic.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that, Dungeons and Dragons it's all about Satanism and witchcraft and lore and, things like that. So you have...
And that was also the time of, playing the records backwards.
Right. So,
in rock and roll albums.
Yeah. So, during that time, so you had a bunch of fundamentalist church that keeping a distance, especially in the Midwest. So I think the difference with like Dungeons and Dragons compared to like Pokemon is there are aspects to it that could be dark and evil, and depending on, because if you don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is, it's a campaign based, almost storytelling, use your imagination, involving
it's a role-playing game.
Involving like teamwork and strategy, and depending on the roll of the dice and the actions declared, you have what's called a dungeon master, who's pretty much the storyteller, kind of guiding people in their quest. And I think it can be innocent enough to where, depending on which campaign you choose,
or make, because a lot of people
create
make their own.
Right. And it can be innocent enough and actually be, really good. Like some of the positives I wrote down was, if it's done in the healthy ways, it promotes teamwork, problem solving. It can also hold Christian virtues like hope, love, and defeating evil.
Well, and some of the best stories that you can like play through and and speak to you. And I'm not saying like you have to do this in Dungeons and Dragons, but also just in general, is like when there is that sort of some Christian symbolism, because like just like, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why like, Lord of the Rings is so attractive, not just because of the great storytelling, but those little elements,
different allegory within it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff with the Dungeons and Dragons is like, I think if you were to probably pick up the like classic, or whatever you want to call the original Dungeons and Dragon game, I'm sure there's going to be some issues with it as Christians, right? You're going to be like, okay, yeah, maybe that certain imagery may be bad, or sometimes with like spells and stuff, they'll make you like, oh, you need to say some type of spell. You don't really know what you're saying or whatever you're doing. I think some of that could be potentially an issue, right? But
especially if it's because guess what? There's real spells, and just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean that it's not real.
Well, and that's why I think with a lot of things and a lot of stuff we were talking about, especially in part one of this, how you approach something. Like if you just blindly kind of go in it and just be like, yeah, here we go, and without actually taking the time to cut that stuff out, or to like, if you're not, I don't know, like if you're not basically guarding your heart, if you're not taking those steps to make sure that like, as I'm researching a campaign to do, like what does it involve, what does it entail?
But I mean, the background that you've painted for the time period, it just shows you like, that was one of the more modern examples of this. So there's this panic, right? And it caused them to be overly legalistic on some things. I mean, sure, like Dungeons and Dragons might have some problems, but it doesn't have to be, and the church just didn't know what to do with this.
You could make your own campaign, and it could be Christian. You could just be like, hey, we're going to be David, and we're going to be running around,
you could make it Lord of the Rings, because there's
so much to it. Like, as someone, I did a campaign one time, I created my own little universe, made all these fake bad people, good people, whatever, little towns, just made it up, and I just ran the campaign. There was nothing, you just like, hey, if you want to be like a wizard, you just use the wizard thing, where it's just like, okay, you use a fireball to attack that goblin, okay, just roll a dice, cool, and you kill, he's done, he's whatever. And yeah, there's nothing to it. I mean, to me it's more of just like a concept of a game, right?
Yeah.
When someone can be like, hey, I'm playing D&D, that could mean so many things. They might be doing Lord of the Rings, they might be doing Marvel, they might be doing, it's where you take it.
And that's, I think a lot of people don't understand that too.
Yeah, because you see it at the store, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a Dungeons and Dragons game, and there might be stuff in there. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I would never play it because that's just not my.
I have played the starter set. I didn't even think to, because I didn't think there was really any harm, because I honestly didn't know about like some of the spells and stuff that people, the bad things that people have done with it. I was not aware, but I was aware of the church back in the day having a big problem with it, but I thought it was something more like Pokemon, where they just didn't understand. From what I saw, nothing like, because usually like if I see something that's like real satanic image or stuff, like I catch that. Like I don't gloss over that. Like it would have stuck out. Did I miss something or did I not turn to the right page? That's could be very possible.
Yeah, and it could just not be part of the story set. It could be like, farther down the line. I don't know, but I've definitely seen some stuff, and it could
Sure.
have been like homemade stuff. I don't know. People
Yeah.
could just trying to be like, oh well, why don't we put real
Mhm.
things that they don't even understand what they're doing.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. But I mean, if I'm not mistaken, around that same time too, and I think this kind of helps contribute to the church kind of freaking out about like this rise in occult type stuff, is the Ouija board became this mainstream game you can just go buy at
By like
Walmart or in the
Milton
children's
Bradley or
aisles.
whatever.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like it's
Talk about like messing with things you shouldn't try to mess with.
that to me is one of like the epitome of things you should like. You're literally talking to demons and stuff through this, and once again, not believing in it does not make a difference. Even if you think I'm so full of it, like you have no idea what you're playing with it with, like it's
right.
don't do it.
Well, because then you have the other extreme of like, erasing everything that is demonic, or erasing like the idea of like good versus evil, like fighting the demonic. I don't know what I'm trying to say with this. So,
Because you're
you're
pretending that it's something
that
not
it doesn't
demonic,
exist,
you're blurring this line that needs to exist. Is that
Right.
what you mean?
kind of, yeah. So like, so if you fail to acknowledge spiritual warfare in our lives, basically pretending that it's not there, and that there aren't spiritual entities that oppose God's kingdom, and
Well, then that's how you
Then you'll
lose.
do nothing good.
right.
You'll just be like, okay, nothing exists. Okay, I'm just gonna live in La La Land
Right.
and not actually be awake for any of this.
Well, it's like a quote I read, and I can't remember the context of it, but it was like, if you're opposed to anything supernatural in general, then I'd recommend not reading your Bible, which means don't do that. You got to read your Bible because,
Yeah, if anything, those are the things
Spiritual.
you should be taking the most serious.
yeah, you should recognize it and oppose it, but not erase it and just assume it's not there without it not being there. By saying something's not there and just going like, it's not real, it doesn't happen, you're not acknowledging it.
And furthermore, I would also say, like, if you do believe in it and you consider yourself a Christian and you think that these things cannot harm you by doing a Ouija board, you do not understand spiritual warfare. And you're vulnerable by just inviting
Yeah, 'cause
these things.
You're trying to give it authority over you, essentially, because a lot of those, I mean, I've never done one, but a lot of those things, you're asking something to come into your, you're giving them the authority to do that. And that's where, that becomes a slippery slope right there. A lot of people do that and then they don't know where they don't know really where they end up, and they don't know how deep down in a rabbit hole they ended up putting
Well,
themselves into.
and I think that's why you gotta be diligent, especially like with quests, like with D&D or other games, not just D&D, but like other things, like some of the games you were talking about in the part 1. And by allowing that stuff in, you're yeah, or even just, don't put yourself in a questionable quest. Don't, by being a mage as opposed to being a wizard in Lord of the Rings, right? So you're basically saying, I'm casting these spells. And a lot of times when some of these writers that write these things, they'll actually take it from actual text, going like, this sounds really good, I'm going to put this in there, not knowing what like this Latin is or whatever. And they're actually are actual incantations or actual.
See, like that I think is a problem. Like the actual incantations thing. Like I don't see an issue being like the mage character or the wizard
Right.
character or whatever, but it's all, but like Lance's point, if it's okay, fireball, like
Yeah, like this guy's gonna do fireball on that goblin. Okay, well,
Yeah, but saying
guys,
fireball,
that's
but by like, I'm going to read this passage here
Oh,
that's
yeah.
going
Yes,
to
that's a huge-
say.
that's a
They do
huge
that.
problem.
Yeah, they do
There-
that.
then
Yeah,
there's
it's a
that there,
problem.
then there's that difference, right? So you have to be, and like I said before, like, don't put yourself in a position where you have to come across that,
Right.
by preemptively taking that part out, or doing the same thing like with the alcoholism thing, or like, I'm not going to start drinking around someone that I know has a problem with alcohol because I don't want to tempt them. I don't want to become that stumbling block for them. If I'm susceptible to certain things, like, I'm not going to surround myself with it in order to have the chance of it taking hold.
Plus, especially with a game like that, it's very consuming. Like you can play it, and again, like a lot of games though, I mean, that you can play games for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
sometimes the campaigns take months or years.
Oh yeah, months, years. But even like setting up for it, like I made my own. Took me. I prepped that thing for months, for a couple hours here, a day, a couple hours here, a couple hours. Like it was exhausting. It was almost like a job to do it. And then obviously you play through the game, and then you have to base it on decisions that they make, and then it's like, well, they're going somewhere. They weren't even supposed to go there. I don't even know why they're doing this.
So now you have to make up
all this other stuff for the next camp, and it's like hours and hours and hours, and now all of a sudden it's like I'm not even spending time doing the will of God because I'm too busy with this game. I'm worried about the campaign.
Well, just like anything,
just like anything else, right?
And
it becomes also, but that game, I'm just saying, it's like, especially like, I feel like it can be such a time consumer for some people.
I know that's in a similar sort of vein. That's why, or one of the reasons why I don't play World of Warcraft, because I love World of Warcraft. I enjoy that game so much, but it's so time consuming, and I don't have that many people to play with anyway. It's just so much, especially like when like you only have an hour or two here or there to play video games. Like you can't even get anything out of it. Yeah. Then you'll be up till 2 a.m. Like
same thing with Minecraft. Like I got
not. You think so? I guess because it's is the sandbox aspect just
the sandbox, like creative, like not missions, not gameplay. It was more the creative mode, like you said earlier, like unwinding from work and things like that. Like I'd find myself going like just creating stuff. Like I think I created Isengard. I created the ad. I created.
It's funny on the mobile. I tried to make Orthanc.
Yeah,
but I just kind of made like this just tall square with stairs in the middle.
And then you find like really different tricks, and like I even like hollowed out a mountain, and like you end up being like, wow, I've just spent 4 hours doing this, and I'm like, was that the best use of my time? But like it was more therapeutic as long as I regulated how much I play it. And so
I mean, at least at the very, I'm not saying that it wasn't an issue, but also, I mean, there's a positive aspect to it with just creating like art. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with art, creating art or writing. I think that's a little more positive than
some of the games, like,
playing a shooter game or something.
And I know you brought up right before we ended part one, you brought up Minecraft, and then you were bringing up Roblox a little bit, and that one's kind of a big kind of Pandora's box, I feel like, with a lot of stuff, not just with the game itself, but
the base game, you mean, right?
Of Roblox?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess more the online aspect of it. Like, it's something I've had to be careful with being a parent, because of the stuff around it, the people that are on it, and having like strict rules with my kids as far as like, don't chat with anybody if you don't know them, don't do whatever, because there's a lot of, it's almost like it's a portal for these activities that aren't.
Well, just to reiterate for the people who don't understand Roblox, people can create whatever sort of games they want within it. So as far as, parenting goes, there's the base game, but somebody could make, I'm trying not to think of something just so crazy, but like you can make whatever,
like a hide and seek type game where it seems innocent enough.
So yeah, but the reality is, like, just like the Dungeons and Dragons, the creators can make anything.
Right.
So there's some crazy stuff.
There's a chance your child can stumble into a room that all of a sudden, oh look, there's all these pentagrams, there's all this.
It's almost like no different than like the internet, right? It's like if you just let your kid go on the internet and they can go on any website they want, it's like some of these games is kind of like the same way. Like it's just you're up to whoever made that website. Like that's really what it comes down to. It's like, oh well, yeah, they stumbled on this game website. They thought it was just a regular game, and then all of a sudden it turned into some demonic crazy thing.
So that's another example. Like just like Roblox, just like Dungeons and Dragons, just like the internet in general. You can use it for good. You can look up Bible verses and you can, post them and do a lot of good things, but there's also a lot of really terrible things on the internet, and that's not good.
Yeah, and it's a lot of purposeful things that are preying on a child's game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially when that was meant for young children, and now it's...
And there's adults that play, especially young adults.
Right, as they grow up, but then there's also people that purposely prey knowing
yeah,
that
and
there's
that's terrible. And so, I mean, it's really up to parents, like, to be aware.
vigilant.
Even if you didn't grow up with video games and stuff, like, you need to figure it out.
You need to, one, set limits. You also need to have parameters. Like with my kids, I said, you can't do this. It needs to be this. And, obviously have a timer on things so they're not playing for hours on end. But at the same time, know what your kids are doing. Like, look over their shoulder, see what they're doing. Don't just be like, put them on a tablet so you're out of my hair for an hour so I can watch Netflix or I can do whatever. Like, I think that's another one of those. Be a parent.
I mean,
like,
and there's lots of parental controls, and that's not the end all be all
right.
for parenting,
Absolutely
but
not.
you should start with that, even on your router side, your modem side, the computer perhaps. Like there's tools that will help, but you also have to be involved.
The best parental filter is yourself.
Yep.
Because you can have that on there and like it's still stuff's gonna slip through.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that everyone's kid's gonna go around it, but guess what? Kids are smart and they might even be better at technology than you, especially being born into this now. They might figure out how to get around it.
They're good at it. Like I remember, I'm going to admit this a little bit, but like where things would get like blocked on like school and be like, how do I get on there? Like, Mr. Smith, this is what you got to do. I'm like, all right, cool, man. Like, I don't know what.
I remember doing that in school all the time.
But didn't you say like even your daughter, when she was like really young, like wouldn't she like didn't she have a story where she knew how to do something without ever even being taught it? Didn't she have something like that?
There's been times where it's just like doing like my wife's using her iPad or whatever, and then all of a sudden she'll just do stuff, and I'm like, how do you even know to like? I don't even know if I knew how to did that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, Simon was good, like, because I think he was only 1 at the time, and like, he took our Kindle, which after he did all this, I learned I should create an account to save my games.
Oh,
so I had like this world building game thing that I always play, and he managed to go through all these menus, restore factory settings, and change the language to French. And it took forever to figure out how many menus he went through to get there and to do all this other stuff. And he might have just been randomly clicking, but he managed to wipe everything, wipe all the memory, restore it, do whatever. And I'm like,
yeah, my daughter changes our Roomba to different languages, like at least once a week. He'll be randomly speaking German, randomly speaking Chinese, and I'm just like, what? And I don't even know how she gets it. She's just like pushing buttons and just changes the language. And like,
I don't know how to do that.
And it's
on the Roomba
I just
side.
go on the app and I change it because I'm like, I don't. And
Roomba talks to you?
Plus, on top of it, when I push the button on the...
It goes 9.
I don't know what it's saying, so I'm going through the things, and I'm like, well, I don't know what language it is, so then I have to go on the app and change it.
The language is that of Mordor. That's hysterical.
Roomba talks to you? I don't have a Roomba. I'm not that...
sometimes, like, empty the bin. It'll let you know if it gets stuck. Sometimes it'll say something. Sometimes it'll send you a little notification. If you lose it, which, believe it or not, because like it's vacuuming, and then I'm like,
it's down the street because you had the door open. I've seen those videos.
Well, one time it just got stuck in a weird place under the couch, so it managed to like wiggle in, and then I didn't know it was there. And then my couch has a what do you do when you
a little give
the
when
you put your
recliner?
feet up? Yeah, the recliner. I thought my recliner was going out. But because I flipped it, like it was like stuck all up in my couch
slamming
layers.
shut, and you hear the thing under the thing going, ow, ow, ow. Roomba hurt.
I really lost the Roomba that time.
It'd be funny if the Roomba did that every time it hit something. It'd just be like, ow.
Ow.
I wonder if you could program it to do it. I'm sure you could, because it just triggers the little bumpers. Yeah, why not? My Roomba's name is Vlad the Inhaler.
I named mine something, but I don't remember what it was called.
Is it Gary?
text my wife. No, it's something like
Before,
Benedict Crumbersnatch or something
Okay,
like that.
yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's
that's funny.
Some type of joke on Benedict Cumberbatch's
That's
name.
funny. Before this, it was Meryl Sweep.
Nice. Yeah,
But once we thought of or looked up or found Vlad the Inhaler, I was like, no, I like Dracula. Anyway, way off topic.
I don't even know how we got here. How did we get to Roombas?
I don't know.
I don't know. Talking about programming it.
Yeah. But so with regards to parenting and stuff, even if it was randomly flipping through menus, just that even in the random clicking, all it takes is the wrong auto suggest on the random buttons he's pushing, and it could be terrible. I mean, read between the lines in what I'm saying, but
yeah,
you do have to be a parent. You have to be.
Well, it's like you misspelling a word and you leave out one letter and you just went and clicked on something that you need to erase your internet history after that.
You're like, oh.
Yeah, and plus you also don't know what type of content it gets into as far as like gore too. I think that's something that gets kind of under.
Well, I think the problem is like you have something and it could be innocent enough, but because a new video plays or they just hit next because, the attention span of 30 seconds or 7 seconds, like it's like, hey, cute game, cute. Now there's this nonsense like that Miss Lemonhead or whatever.
Yeah, or, kind of related, but now it's a troll thing and it's something crazy just because, this is connected to that, and then now this is connected to this, and now it's...
Because it has some keyword within its description.
Yeah, or it's just a person, oh, well, this person played this game, but they've also played this game, and then you clicked on this person who also played the same game and also played this, so then it just puts you to a game, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, because you have these adults playing Roblox,
right.
Which then goes to Fortnite, which then goes to...
Minecraft, or goes to...
Well, I was going to get to, like, Diablo or Doom, where it's excessive gore and stuff, and, like...
Leisure Suit Larry.
What is that?
It was more an adult game where it's like poker and it's like a weird... Never mind, I'm dating myself.
What do you mean by a game? Is it a video game?
It's a video game, like on computer, on PC. It was one of those like risque things with like...
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Risque for the time.
Got it.
Probably tame now.
Well, what about Oregon Trail?
Oregon Trail?
Die of dysentery. Terrible.
The funny meme.
I'm joking.
There's a funny meme of like Terry Crews, like he's like, "Oh, you're dysentery." He's like, "Oh, you died from dysentery."
Aha, that's funny. Gosh, you just made me think of one more bad game, and I just totally lost it.
Like
yeah.
GTA.
No, because I don't. I mean,
Doom.
Well, Doom.
I mean, open doors for other things, but the premise of the game itself.
I guess I don't know enough about it, but my issue of it, and like, I mean, for me personally, like, I don't care, like, little violence, little blood, whatever, but like, when I saw the trailer for one of the more modern Doom games, it was so excessive, it made me uncomfortable. And I'm not like sensitive to it or anything, but like, it just seems so overly gratuitous. I was like, why would I play this? It just seemed ridiculous. Yeah. Like unnecessarily gross. Oh, I remember the game now. Diablo 3 is actually one I have a problem with, and I'll tell you why.
What about 2 or 1?
No, but maybe I'll gladly be talked into it being a problem. I didn't see any problems with the...
I haven't played it. I haven't played any of them.
You know what? That's not true.
3 is bad, but 2 and 1 are okay.
I'll tell you. You know what? I do have a problem with all of them, I think, because
there was issues, but the 3 just kind of went off. It was just like, okay,
we'll just go
all the, like just excessive in your face instead of
full on satanic.
So obviously I have no problem with Christian allegory, like the Lord of the Rings is going to be one of the big examples, right? Even if you look at the Silmarillion, there was Eru the One, and he created the earth, right? Gandalf, all that. So Diablo doesn't have the universe of angels and stuff. Like, it uses things like Gabriel, the archangel, and stuff. So just taking those real angel examples and sure, like maybe even like you could make Christian fiction, right? And maybe that's okay, right? Or maybe okay, it's debatable. It's debatable, right?
Sure, yeah.
Here's the problem. I don't quote me on this, but either Gabriel or Michael like falls, becomes a fallen angel or something. So like that's the problem. Diablo 3 I have the issue with is because now they introduce the main villain is Lilith, which is, the Lilith, the demon. I don't think 1 and 2 had pentagrams and stuff, but this one introduced it. Like you cast spells and it makes pentagrams on the floors and all stuff, and it went way off the deep end of embracing this real occult stuff. And now Blizzard has a statue of Lilith at their campus and stuff, and I was like, she's like, do you know what Lilith is?
Well, and I think that's the problem with like a lot of things, whether it be movies, cartoons, video games, things like that, is you start with something that you're kind of borderline okay with. You're like, well, that's okay. It's a little whatever. And it's almost like gaining those footholds to the point where all of a sudden it's like, well, they accepted this. Let's pump it up a little bit. Okay, this is still okay. Now we're going to go full on pentagrams. And like, I think that's the problem is you get accepting of this. And then what else are you going to let in? Because you were fine with this is fine with this, and then it becomes whatever. And the same thing goes with TV, music, everything else. You're just like, they said a few bad words, and then like, or this was censored. Well, now that word's not even censored on the radio anymore, right. And so it's like allowing these footholds and allowing to get darker and darker and darker.
Mm-hmm. And not to derail, but I mean, that's just like with almost everything these days with, and I'm not picking on all the Christians, but everyone's been so silent about everything, and it just has let everything just keep going in every aspect, not just
culturally.
Culturally, yeah. It's just right. Like, hey, it's okay to do this. Okay, it's okay to do that. Okay, well now it's okay to do this, and now we have all gotten to a point, not only in games, but as just a society, we're just like,
right.
I don't want to
offend someone,
and I don't care. Now it gets to a point where it's like, I don't care if I offend you. This is wrong. Yep. And then they're going to come back at you, and then you're just going to be like, well, too bad. Like, this is something like, I'm not going to take a fall for this. Like, I'm not going to be like, okay, yeah, this is great. Yeah, let me continue to spread this hate and evil around the world. No, I'm going to take a stand as a Christian, as I'm supposed to do, and call out the evil that we see. And it's, unfortunately that we've gotten to this point, but it does come down to a lot of Christians over the past few years just like keeping their mouth shut. And I also feel like part of it's been, we talked about the churches who like they're calling out evil when it's like, that's not really evil. It's almost like the people who would call it out are wrong. And then the people who are like, should be calling out and might know better, they just sit there and just keep their mouth shut. They're like, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. And it's like, guys, come on. Like, how do we not dedicate the time to do our due diligence to actually make a change in the world?
Yep. Aside from the Ouija board, I have not seen a church, a pastor, whatever, talk about those games and whatever else that I have a huge problem with. And I think it's important because Diablo 3, very popular. Cult of the Lamb, also very popular, sometimes more than others, depending on a content update. Binding of Isaac was very popular, and a lot of people still play that game.
What if, and I'm not 100% on this, but what if, a lot of things, with mainstream media and things like that, like putting up a distraction, something for you to be angry at. Meanwhile, your focus is over here, but you're not focused on the true evil of things or the root of things. So like you, and then the thing is, by having them be upset by something like, let's say, Pokemon, and just waging this war against Pokemon or waging the war against something like that, and not this over here, then you look at that and be like, well, that's silly that the church is going against this and that. And so therefore, when it comes time to be against the actual root or the actual something that is evil, because you saw the ridiculousness of this, that you don't take it serious because you're like,
it's like a boy who cried wolf.
Yeah. Like you had a problem with Pokemon and now you're telling me about this, whatever. Like, you're just mad about everything. So like, it's just almost like a gimmick or just kind of a tactic.
Well, and then I think Satan
That's just something I just kind of came up with. I don't know if it's actual, whatever.
And also, maybe I just never saw it. I'm not saying that no church or church leader or anything has ever not called out these things. And I do see, like, especially when that Lilith statue was unveiled at Blizzard's headquarters, I saw people complaining, but then I also saw people like, oh, Christians are census. That's not what it is. I'm like, well, it is.
Well, I think a lot of part of it too is how many of the pastors or whatever the churches are they paying enough attention to this stuff? Because sometimes, I think you can get tunnel vision and be like, okay, let's focus on God and focus on the Word, and it's almost like these things are happening, and they're like, yeah, there's so many bad video games, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm not going to just touch on that, but it's like you kind of just get that tunnel vision of it's only this, and they don't understand that Diablo 3 is going to be one of the biggest games of the year. It's going to affect potentially millions of people, right? Like they just don't get it. Like, you don't know what you don't know sometimes.
Well, they do a blanket statement, so it's just the idea of video games in general. Video games rot your brain.
And that's not even true if you want to even get into those studies and stuff, especially the older ones. But also maybe as youth group leaders, they should be more in tune with what these teenagers.
Well, maybe they do.
And maybe, I was going to say, and maybe
been in a youth group in years,
yeah, exactly. Maybe it's more important on that level. And as adult churchgoers, theoretically, we shouldn't need the pastor to be like, hey, by the way, Diablo, like you as an adult Christian should see that and just know. And how do you know? You spend time in your Bible, going to church, and sharpening up your spiritual warfare.
Well, and also spend time communicating with your kids and knowing what's out there.
Yeah, from that aspect too. I meant as an adult gamer.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. But I mean, like, because some parents don't know, my parents weren't as engaged in my childhood to where I could just be like, hey, can I have that? Sure, here you go. Without, like, knowing what it was.
That's their common, your generation.
Yeah.
You guys were just left at home, the latchkey kids and
whatever. You left in the morning, you came back when the porch light came on,
yep.
And now we're, obviously overprotective to a fault sometimes.
Yeah.
But just to be involved, to know what your kids are doing, like, instead of just assuming, like, why are you drawing that character? Why are you doing, what's this game about? Well, no, tell me what the game is about. So I'm going to look it up. I'm like, what's wrong with this part? Do you understand that this character means this, and you probably shouldn't be, I guess. But if I didn't do that as a parent, I'm just letting my kids do whatever. And so, like, I think there's obviously, I just keep circling back to it, but I'm like, as a parent, you need to be involved in your kids.
Because if you don't, then the world's going to raise you.
They have a foothold, yeah.
We're not supposed to be of the world, right? Right.
Our glass ceiling should be our kids' foundation.
Right. And I think so many times parents, because they'll make up an excuse. I don't have time. I don't feel like doing the research. Whatever.
Oh, you don't have time for your kids.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And they'll just go off of the rating on the video game. Oh, it's E for everyone. Okay, cool. Yeah, you can buy it. Or T for teen. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Just no mature content. But meanwhile, Roblox is E for everyone. You don't know where you can stumble in there. So is Minecraft. So is Fortnite, I think.
And also what they allow in T for teen. Like, do you actually understand what's in T for teen?
Right. And just because it's that, does it mean there's not going to be... That's just what the world is deciding is okay.
Yeah, because PG-13, like, you can have an F-bomb now. I believe there's like some minimal nudity or something. There's something a little...
So many seconds or so many...
There's some sort of looseness to...
Well, especially when you...
Is there witchcraft? Like, I'm sure they probably allow witchcraft, and they probably allow, like, all this other stuff, right?
Yeah,
that's just fine.
Well, it's the world. It's the world standard for what is okay. I mean, even look at how much has changed even from from the 80s, like the original Star Wars movies to where they were PG, or even some of the older movies where they're PG and there's nudity, or G and there's stuff that's like that should be PG-13, but because it's back then, it wasn't as, whatever, and then it's just...
Don't take the easy way out. Like, you have to be involved, you have to be educated, you have to be informed. I guess.
Well, because even me, so like I like to introduce my son to like movies that I liked as a kid, and I was more desensitized, I guess, or I was more had
Mhm.
more liberal type watching and things like this. I'm like, let's watch this movie. I'm like looking, going, oh, there's some nudity in this one. I'm like, it says it's PG. I'm like, ah, boy, and I totally forgot because at the time I'm like, I didn't think anything of it, and then obviously it wasn't important enough that like I remember it being in the movie, but for some reason it's in the movie. So like, it's something you also have to be mindful of, like what you saw as a kid and was okay as a kid isn't okay now.
Because you're going to desensitize your children to an extent. So, be careful on what you're allowing them to consume. And kids are going to be different, and you're going to have different standards than maybe another parent.
But it's important because if you're not going to care as a parent, it's not even that the kids will think that you don't care.
Because they'll think you're just cool and like, yeah, okay, I'm getting away. You know,
to an extent.
To an extent, but it's like, let's just say Diablo 3 for an example. Right? Let's say you're a parent and you're like, oh yeah, you're like, can I buy Diablo 3? They're just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Just here, take my money.
It's fantasy.
I don't care. Just leave me alone. I need to do work or whatever, right? The kid goes and plays the game, sees all, demonic imagery, all this weird stuff, crazy, the whole 9 yards. The kid now just thinks, because all it's based on the parent, oh, this is okay. So then if I see this elsewhere, it's okay. And I know it's okay because I've gotten the okay from my parents, even though you might not say, no, I don't think that's okay. Well, you said it when you gave them the game because you're not doing your due diligence. You know what I mean?
And depending on how deep they get into this, now as a teenager, now are they wearing pentagrams and you're trying to fight with them and now maybe you start questioning what is right or wrong in allowing this, it's a terrible example really, in that in Disney's Plus's, what's the name of the show? Harkness, House of Harkness.
Oh, the Agatha Harkness.
The Agatha Harkness one, I guess, is what I'm getting at. There was pentagrams all over their merchandise. Like it was supposed to be like fake fantasy witches, right? Because of the Scarlet Witch and the death character, and like it went from fantasy witch stuff from the comic books to pentagrams and stuff, and it did not have to go there. And I think it's happening in the comics too now, which is terrible.
Yeah, it just normalizes it to the point where you'll see kids draw stuff, and to them it's innocent enough. They're like, it's just whatever.
It's my character, the character from Marvel.
Or
no,
and
that's
you don't
not what it is.
Yeah, and I think that's where the foothold kind of starts, because to them it's an innocent thing. It's just whatever. Like I was guilty of it too when I was younger. I would do it to make Christians mad. I was not gonna care, but just to draw something for the sake of doing it because I knew it would make someone angry. Not that I worship the devil, not that I did, all that stuff. I did it because I knew it would make someone upset.
Yeah.
Or just do it just to do it.
It's just bad.
It is bad, looking back on it. But at the time, like, you're just like, whatever.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So it's important to sharpen your swords for spiritual warfare, because it's real, and it's, really it's more important now than ever.
100%. And if you're in doubt or you feel wrong about it, then just don't do it, right?
Yep.
If you're concerned about something and you're like, man, if it's bothering you, okay, then maybe it's not for you. Maybe it isn't for you.
And what's fine for someone, it might not be fine for you.
Yep. And that's also biblical. I think that's probably about all the time we have.
Time just flies.
Yeah, that was fun. Two nice long episodes there. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. We love you. Be safe, and God bless.